This isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Chichagash. Buckle in. The show starts now.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Crush This, a Monster Truck Podcast. This is December 24th. We're getting ready for Christmas. So if you guys are watching this right now, it's a pre-recorded episode, getting ready for Christmas and New Year's the next couple weeks. So we'll go from there. But, awesome having last week, Scott Jordan. Thank you for what has he done and everything like that. Thank you again for all the fans and questions and stuff like that. Once again, fans, thank you for the 5-star likes and reviews on iTunes and on Spotify. Once again, thank you. Want to thank our major sponsor, J Concepts. Jason Rona and his crew do an awesome way of doing of the old school monster truck world. And we got here my No Problem, which at the end of the month I'll switch again. And that has, if you want to know the hint, has J Concepts Ford 1989 Ford Bronco body, has the J Concepts Renegade chassis, has J Concepts 27 turn engine motor. The wheels and tires are the J Concepts Gold Years with the Tribute rims, and J Concepts body mounts and pins. Everything that you can get to make this truck legit outside the cloud axles is off of jconcepts.net. And also I got my Bigfoot truck here with the J Concepts Renegade. Actually, let me rephrase that. The Renegades are the tires. The J Concepts chassis right here, I forget the name of it, but the regulator. There we go. The regulator is right here. That is the chassis. The Renegades are the tires with the Tribute and the J Concepts Ford F-250 body. But the wrap is made by JB Scale Graphics, but everything right there. And also has a 17-turn J Concept motor. So go there, type in Crush This at checkout for 15% off items on jconcepts.net for all your RC needs. And it's some pretty cool stuff. Also, this cool hat right there. Go get that stuff at our spreadshop.com. Oh, and also, while you're at it, unprofessional of me, sweaters, crew shirts, stuff like that. Go get it. So Spread Shop helps us out. Cool deal. And also, while you're at it, we had him on maybe a few weeks ago, Mr. Mike Welch. Help him and the People's Pete, Super Pete monster truck, to try to get it all ready to go by the Bigfoot Open House. This right here is his P.O. box and money order. If you want to send some money to become a sponsor of his monster truck, help out with this going on. It's cool to do so and bring back, help Mike Welch with what he's doing in the monster truck industry, is creating this monster truck, the People's Pete. Go take a look at that stuff. It's awesome. Cool cat. Bryce Kenny, go see his book. Geared for Life, making the shift into your full potential. Go there, amazon.com/gears-life-making shift potential. Go to that, buy the book. Cool deal for Christmas. Last second deal. Go get that stuff. It's pretty cool. And all that jazz. Good to see. But getting ready for first quarter season, getting ready for all that jazz. But right now, the thing we're going to do is, and when you're wondering about Brad, Brad's right now in this episode, him and his wife doing a church function today. So he'll be back on probably the beginning of the year. Everything becoming new, cool stuff going to happen. Can't wait to see that. This is all going to change. I'm even keep on screwing up with the layout. So we just saw two cool layouts up in that going on. So new videos, new ads, stuff like that. So for me, though, I am going to play as producer. The gentleman that's going to be doing the interview is a good friend of mine, a very good historian, a monster truck announcer. We had him on, I think, last year or maybe the beginning of the year as a guest, but now he's going to be the co-host for this episode for a special cool learning about a cool cat that did raced everything, mud racing, drag racing, monster trucks. Like I said, the first time I saw his truck was on a Monster Truck Bloopers 2 commercial video, and it was it was a yellow Dodge Wild Thing, not Thing. And it's cool to learn about people in the industry and his story. So I have Mr. Mark Warner as our guest host, which he's going to take the reins, the steering wheel. If it's a bad, terrible, all I have to do is delete the recording and nothing happens. But we're going to keep on going. And then we're going to have Ken Krum, the guy who created Wild Thing, Shark Attack, and much, much more in his story. So it's going to be pretty cool. But we'll be right back. And we're going to thank some ads, thank some people that help us going on. And then we'll have them two on this shindig. So here we go. Be right back.
Are you ready to get in on the action here on the Monster Truck Attitude YouTube channel? Look no further. Head over to Facebook where you can sign up for all the great events we host right here on the MTA YouTube channel. Be sure to sign up for the events and register your name and get locked in with a monster truck of your own and get ready for the great thrills and spills right here on the MTA YouTube channel. Again, find us on Facebook, register for these events, and you soon will be competing in all the great events. We hope to see you there. And get ready for the wild and crazy action. Be sure to subscribe and turn on all notifications so you don't miss a beat right here on the Monster Truck Attitude YouTube channel.
All right. So here we go. We got our co-host and our guest here. So we're excited to have that here. But I will disappear and play the producer. And Mark, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dan. Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a very good Christmas season. Right now, we're getting ready to interview someone who, as Dan said, the guy has raced everything there is to race. Funny cars, mud racing, monster trucks, a unique story, and really in many ways, especially with the monster trucks, kind of a missing link for a lot of different trucks and chassis in this industry. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the podcast, Mr. Ken Krum. Ken, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good. Doing good.
Awesome. So you, as I said, have raced everything. Let's go back to the very beginning. Kind of talk about how you got involved with the motorsports and what was the first field of automotive competition you were involved in?
I would say the first automotive that I got involved with was I got into mud racing in 1980. And I didn't know I was even getting into it. I'd built something out of a drag car I had, just kind of a street car, and an old Bronco. Built this thing. A buddy of mine said, "Hey, let's go to this." And I went and won the race. So I was kind of hooked, and then did well all the way through that year. And then I tried to get serious about it. So, but I had three children. I just got married, built a new house, and money was tight. So that's
definitely understandable there.
so. But as far as getting it, I was thinking about it. I actually raced with Bigfoot back in the day when Bigfoot wasn't quite crushing cars or doing any of that kind of stuff yet. So he would actually come. He was a draw for the show. We would go race and, got to see him quite a bit.
Oh, definitely. And that's actually a really cool fact, hearing about racing against Bigfoot, especially in those early days when the truck was still doing the mud bogs and everything. And then
I don't think it was, and of course it was kind of just something that happened the way I understand it, but he really wasn't sure which direction he was headed either. So it just kind of, back in those days, things kind of just evolved and turned into something. We really weren't knowing that's where we were headed. So I raced mud racing. I got kind of tired of that, sold everything, went to funny cars, realized I really didn't have the money to do that, and jumped back and forth. But that actually gave me kind of a leg up, because I was running a blower and blown Hemi with a triple disc clutch, air shift transmissions against guys that were still carbureted. They didn't know what happened to them. So it just kind of gave me a little bit of a head start. So we did that. I could talk. I was fortunate enough when I was doing the mud racing, went back to that. Got to go to Hawaii to do a show. Got to spend a week with Evel Knievel. And stuff that was going on, you didn't even realize it was going on at the time. I mean, it was such a fast pace, crazy. So that is kind of, I was doing my show up, I think it was in Chicago, and the monster trucks had showed up again. I was mud racing, and it was snowing. And I was kind of the big draw of the mud racing. But that particular night, they made me go back out and put my truck out in snow. And it was because the monster trucks needed to come inside. And at that time, I realized that's the direction I needed to be going. So that's how I got towards the monster truck stuff. Yeah.
I wanted to touch too on the mud racing, because you had multiple different vehicles that competed over the years. There's the Wild Thing Mud Racer. There's the Spoiled Brat that Dan is showing on the screen right now. What was it like competing on the circuit at that time? You mentioned you had the chance to go to Hawaii, hang out with Evel Knievel. What was it like competing on the mud racing circuit in the late 80s, early 90s?
Well, I mean, it was kind of, it was, again, you didn't know what you were doing at the time, but did well at that. It paid well, and, did what we could do. I had, like I said, I sold out, got in funny cars. Then when I got back out of it, I had a Subaru Brat that my little brother had tried to race, and just didn't do well. So I got it and rebuilt it, and it was really, it was fast. Like I said, I went up to the first race. Why I thought I could go all the way to Utah and race, but we did, and we won, and it was just kind of set off something that then I needed to be everywhere. So, but that vehicle turned into the Wild Thing, and it was because the old Spoiled Brat was really heavy, not built for what we were doing at the time. So it, progressed into the Wild Thing. So, what do I do next? I'm trying to.
And
go ahead.
And speaking of the Wild Thing, you've got several wild rides that happened in that mud racer. I know the photo I've seen of you racing with the engine on fire. I've seen there's clips on YouTube of a wild ride. I believe it's New Orleans, if I'm correct. I've heard stories too of, and I wanted to ask you on this. There's a story that one of the old broadcasts said that you had a mud race and the car flipped the first pass, came back the second pass. And I want to say it won the event. As far as the mud racing, what were some of your wildest rides going down the track?
Well, if a friend of mine had just asked, why are the pictures on my Facebook profile always either I'm on fire or something's rolling over? And I said, it's better. It just makes a better story when you do that and still win the show. It's
True.
So I mean, you rattle off a couple of them right there. The wild thing, actually, I moved into it. It had gotten so fast, I couldn't continually drive it the way it was. And there was nothing I could do for it because it either had the front tires in the air or going, and we had new tires coming out. So we had to do something different. But yes, in Missoula, Montana, I rolled the car over and come back. We're able to had a breather on it, cleaned the blower and stuff out, came back and won the event. And oh shoot, there's a deal of it on fire. That was a commercial for like ESPN for a year or so, showing that. And it was because we had just went to a new all aluminum motor and it really spun the tires hard. So it kicked rods out both sides and caught on fire. Gosh, there was so many crazy things you do. When you're from Kansas City, you go to Montana, Utah, California, you have to win to be able to come back home because you don't have gas money. So I went to the line, the steering didn't work. I would have somebody kick the tire straight so I could still go ahead and run. And it's just things you do to, it was just a different time. You wouldn't do stuff like that now. They wouldn't let you. So,
Oh, definitely.
Had to the throttle cable break when it's a rear engine car, hook a string to it or a rope, and I'll pull the throttle with my hand. You just do silly things when for the love of motorsports. But yeah, so that's probably of the few things that have happened in that sport. So yeah, when I decided to make the jump to monster trucks, and it was because it was definitely a financial type deal. We saw mud racing kind of slowing down, and I didn't know a lot about monster trucks. So I went to a show in Kansas City, and there was a truck for sale, Bad Medicine. I didn't know any history of the truck, just thought it was a good looking truck. It was a Hemi, like I was running a Hemi, so I bought it without a motor and transmission. And I'm not sure. I don't even know where the accident happened with that truck, but I bought a truck, spent a lot of time putting it together, trying to make it nice, and you couldn't get any work for it because of, the previous accident it was involved in. So I built a whole new truck. Actually, a buddy of mine that was mud racing with me, we did that and kept the same body, painted it completely different, and it took off. So that's how I got into monster trucks, I guess I should say. So
Oh yeah, because that Wild Thing truck that didn't compete on the circuit for very, very long. I know it did. I know you bought it. It ran the original suspension configuration, and you four-linked it briefly. Dan's got video of the four-linked version on the screen. and then you went with your next truck, if I'm correct.
Yes, and that was because I knew nothing about it. Tried to do something with it as far as the parts and everything it had. I mean, it had some pretty, the axles at that time were out of the Carolina Crusher truck. I think the second one of those. And, but other than that, the standard shocks it didn't have, it was a leaf spring truck. And I tried to 4-link it and unsprung, both ends of the leaf spring, still rode like crap. So with its history, we decided just to build a new truck, even though we still didn't know what we were doing. We did it. So made my own shocks, which are kind of a neat deal still. And yeah, and so it took off again. I tried to do something different in monster trucks. Everybody wanted to have a Chevy truck because they like Chevy trucks. But promoters want a Ford, a Dodge, and a Chevy. So everybody has something to root for. So all my trucks were Dodges and Ford. And it just gave me another, leg up. And financially, I mean, back in those days, I was still really young and just trying to make it work. So anything that would help.
Oh, yeah. And then you mentioned the next truck you built. That was the Shark Attack machine.
Yes.
And very different setup. I believe that's the same body from Bad Medicine Wild thing, but very different setup as far as suspension, chassis, and everything. And from what the footage I've seen of that truck, it was a very strong running piece.
Yes. It, like I said, I built the shocks, 4-linked it from the racing we had done before. And I would have to say that getting in every type of motorsports, from dirt cars, drag boats, bikes, you name it, you learn a little bit of something, whether it's tires act different when they're low, high, hot, cold, just kind of a little bit of everything. So we put that into a truck. Again, we had never even really watched monster trucks. It's just like, let's go do this. And it happened to, really work out well. We had a blown Hemi, which that helped. And, I wasn't racing. Oh, I wasn't racing Barefoot or Bigfoot or, those guys, Gravedigger, much at that time. So they were smaller shows, Ed Beckley and Mike Welch and some stuff. So we got to shine.
Oh, definitely. And then also too, what was the response to the Shark Attack truck? Because obviously from the fans side of things, because it was a different look, because with the shark theme and also too keeping the Dodge body and everything.
We kept the body because I didn't have another one, and it was really a fairly nice body. It hadn't been tore up that bad. The way the sharks have always come about, I used to go shark fishing a couple times a year with my family down in Texas. So I, was familiar with them. The way I came up with that is I made some different things to take through a grade school, had the kids pick out which one they liked the most. And that's kind of, it landed on the shark, which I was happy. So, but I had a guy come in and paint the shark on the side of the truck, had no idea what he was going to do. So when he got done, I walked in a couple of times and I'm thinking, oh man, what did I do? He was, a professional artist, and there were kids afraid to walk past the truck, some of them, because the shark looked that real, the water on it. And it was just something a little different than, what other people were doing. Again, we didn't know what we were supposed to be doing. So, but that Dodge, I sold the truck to Jimmy Cretin, that now still runs the Bounty Hunter. And he needed to change the name of it, so we came up with changing it to the Bounty Hunter. He kept it, painted it again, and ran it until he started building new ones, which Jimmy is a engineer, which I don't know if a lot of people know that, but that's kind of, he was the guy that kept coming by the shop wanting to buy a truck. Well, I didn't know who he was. And finally let him buy one of them. We were going to build a new one. And that's kind of the way he got involved.
Oh yeah, and also too, Cretan mentioned, I believe it's on the Pontiac Silverdome 2006 show when it aired. He drove another one of your trucks as well, because you started off with the Wild Thing, then had Shark Attack, and then you added the Plum Nuts truck next, if I'm correct.
Yes, it was, we thought we'd learned a lot about monster trucks, so we built a new one, and it didn't do nearly as well as the first one, but, and it was called Plum Nuts, and then it, like I said, we had different bodies we switched around, actually. If a promoter wanted a Ford, we'd put a different body on it, a different name. So, and that carried over into what Jimmy did, you know, or was doing at the last. And at one time we were running 3 trucks. And later on, I started running the Undertaker truck. And it kind of turned out to be similar to the, when I got into the Bad Medicine truck. I didn't know a lot about it and what was going on with it. So it was, I'm trying to think, it was if I can jump to that spot, it was the Undertaker also that it turned into the Punisher. And I had promoters said if I could get that body, they could put me up as the Undertaker truck. And that's what I did. But I didn't know it wasn't supposed to be out there. It was actually an old Gravedigger body that they had gotten in trouble over. So I get in trouble again, but it worked out.
See, it's interesting with that Undertaker truck, because that was, believe it or not, one of those trucks. There's not a ton of photos of it out there. I think the only ones I've seen of it are in an old program that I have from '97. It's a Stanley Torgerson program, I believe. And that's kind of one of those versions of the truck that, from what I gathered, it ran, and there's a photo of it there on the screen. It ran a respectable amount of time. It's just one of the most undocumented versions of that name in monster trucks, kind of interestingly. What was it like? Obviously, there's the headaches associated with the body, but as far as the response to fans for the wrestler theme and everything, what was the response? Was it a good one, at least?
Yeah, it was good. And again, I didn't know about the problems with the body, and that was okay. At the time, like I said, we're racing. We have so much going on with other things that I never stopped to take pictures. Because, like I said, things are happening so quick that I missed out on it, or just didn't do it. I would hope there's some more pictures of it out there, and maybe this will generate a few of them, but I don't have any myself. I have a picture with my young boys that and Craig Christensen, he's another name of monster trucks, that drove it and actually rolled the truck into a fence and tore the body all off of it again. And it but the fans loved the wrestlers at the time, and I don't know, there's probably not any more guys involved like that, as far as I know of. They're crossing over, a wrestler crossing over into monster trucks and having their own deal, or
Not. I
or
don't
not.
think anyone's. I don't think anyone's doing it now. No.
Yeah. And the last I knew of, I think Goldberg was with Tom Mintz or something like that. Is that?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. Tom's a mud racer. I used to race with him also quite a bit. So, yep.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
And then you kind of have that evolution. Now you're running, the 3 trucks. You've got, all these different drivers. And then during that time too, I believe you were starting to drive less and less as you started to get more employees working under you, if I'm correct on that.
yeah. And it goes back to, I started a business thinking if I made it go well enough, I could leave and go racing. It was just the opposite. It also took off so quick. Now I have to have drivers go do what I want to do. So I don't know if you call it backfired or not, but it didn't work out to where, because I couldn't leave, my businesses and go out and play on the road. So, and monster trucks at that time, I'm sure they still are, they would go out maybe for a month at a time. And you kind of had to be a young single guy to go out and do that kind of stuff. And I wasn't. So I got to drive less and less. I had been hurt, had a back surgery, and so I had gotten hurt in Duluth, Minnesota. I filled in for one of my drivers because monster trucks have contracts and you got to show up, or, actually the small shows might have 4 trucks. If I didn't show up with my 2 trucks, then there's not much of a show with 2 of them. So my driver at that time decided he needed to go home for his birthday to Seattle, Washington. And so I filled in for him, which was probably not one of the smarter things I did, but I did. So, and that was back at the time that Michael Jackson's hair caught on fire. If for old guys that would remember something like that, but we had spinal impact seats. And for some reason, this driver had put a metal plate under the seat to keep fire from coming up underneath of it. Well, I was the first one to drive it, and it wasn't a good thing. So I was hurt. Spent 2 weeks in the trauma center up in Duluth and came home, and I haven't driven anymore. So that is kind of jumping to the front there, but there was just so many things going on. When I would get to a show, I like to help the other drivers. Like I said, you had to keep the trucks running just to put on the show for the fans. They've spent money to come see you. So it didn't matter to me. I would work on them, help anybody. And I think that's, still a thing that happens a lot in motorsports.
Oh yeah. And you talked about the Duluth crash as well. The video on the screen is that wreck, and that when it surfaced earlier this year, and now the aftermath is being shown. That was a very scary deal. When you look at the truck afterwards, it's beat up, and if that's what the truck looks like, then that was a lucky escape.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the videos I've seen of it didn't look that bad as compared to some of them, that I've seen. But the past before that, I hadn't been in the truck for a year or so. I ran the truck too hard and slid into the concrete wall and broke a tie rod off of it. Actually broke a steering knuckle. So I welded it all back together. And when I hit the trucks, it broke. It stopped the tires from turning, which kind of noses the truck over. And that's kind of how. So when it landed, they weren't rotating again, and we just made a mess. And yeah, they had to come cut the top of the truck off to get me out of the truck. It was just something that, precaution they did. And yeah, so that was the last time I ran a truck. And that was actually Jimmy Cretan's. He was at that show, and he was running the Shark Attack truck at that time, because he hadn't painted it. We hadn't done anything like that. But he, wasn't his first show. It wasn't a good one to probably go watch. I mean, he was, or be involved with, but everything worked out.
Understood. And then your trucks, correct me if I'm wrong, they kept running on the circuit for a little while longer, even after you got hurt, if I'm correct on that.
Yes. Yeah, because me getting hurt really didn't stop the trucks at all. Because I had other businesses going. I had, tried to deal with. I had the guy that built most of my stuff. He was driving one of the trucks, Rick Brickeye, and so he kind of kept, things going, and the truck's moving along. It stopped. Like I said, I had sold Jimmy Creighton the truck, and the intentions were to take that money and build another new truck, because it was considered the old truck. And with me getting hurt and stuff just didn't work out. So it kind of put it to a stop that way. Not so much that I wasn't doing monster trucks anymore. It was just the funds weren't there. The other businesses were it was crazy. So everything kind of went that direction. And the monster truck cut kind of went by the way. And like I said, things were happening so quick. If you'd asked me at that time, would monster trucks still be racing now? I'd have said no way. But they've been able to evolve, put on a show or a better show, and they're still doing their thing.
Oh, yeah. I gotta ask, when did you make? Because you mentioned that you sold Shark Attack when the Plum Nuts crash happened already. It just wasn't painted yet. When did you make the call to sell your other trucks? Following, obviously, the wreck had happened, so this would have been further on.
Yeah, like I said, they went ahead and ran for a while. To get reliable help or reliable drivers was not as easy as people think. Everybody wants to go drive a monster truck, but do they want to work 7 days a week and to keep the upkeep on them, be it out on the road? There's just a lot of work. So help was kind of getting hard to find. I couldn't be out there and really be involved in it like I was, and that kind of just kind of drug it to an end. I did sell my trucks. One of them went to a guy, Rod Mann, and he ran it as trying to think of what he called it.
Wild Man.
Wild Man, that's right. And it didn't run very long. And I'm not sure what's up with it. It's still setting somewhere, but I'm trying to think. After that, it was kind of, like I said, just things slowed to an end, and Jimmy bought me out, bought my semis and bought that kind of stuff. So he liked what he was doing and was able to, and that was a big thing. You have to kind of be out, and I believe you have to be out on the road with them. I'm trying to think. I started doing these shows earlier that I would do these fairs and festival kind of things. I had 2 trucks, would go out and race against each other on a Thursday, a Friday, and a Saturday night, all different venues. And that was really what I wanted to go to, but I couldn't be out there anymore. And that it was really a big deal. I got a call from a promoter. He said, I need you to come up here and see what's going on. And so I went up to a show hours and hours away. I got in a truck. They said the truck, it won't jump. So, and it was the Shark Attack truck. So I still had it at that time. And I got in it and I run it to death. And I kept jumping it and I couldn't figure out why it wouldn't get off the ground. Well, I have pictures of it about 20 foot in the air. And it just landed so nice, I didn't even know it was leaving the ground. So the promoter decided I had to be there or drive the truck, or he didn't, he just didn't want the guys that I had arguing with each other to come back. Well, I couldn't do that. So, I mean, that's just kind of a scenario of how the people you have are the kind of the face of your business. Behind the scenes, the people in the stands, or they get to see the trucks, which trucks they like. But if you're hard to work with, a promoter doesn't want you back. So they have that luxury. And as a business, you gotta do what they want you to do.
Oh yeah,
So,
no, understood on that. Understood. I gotta bring this up too because you mentioned you being integral. Excuse me, I can say that word. In the career of Jimmy Cretin and in Craig Christensen's career as well. Do you ever look back at your time in monster trucks and kind of like, wow, for something that was a relatively short time, it really did have some big impacts in the industry to this modern day. And maybe you look back at your time and go, hey, maybe it wasn't a long time, but man, I really had an impact in the long run.
Yeah. And I have a gentleman getting with me because I talked about the shocks I made myself, these little things, and he would like to have some of them just to put in a display and it was almost like it was so long ago. That's something that happened and it's completely different than now. My grandchildren don't know anything about it other than, what they're told. But yeah, it was, but I've never thought of it as, well, if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't be. Not at all. Because, at that time, if you weren't able to figure it out yourself, you weren't going to go anywhere. It seems to be now that there's about every part you need to buy for a monster truck, you can order it. And I shouldn't say it that way because I have been out of it for so long, but there's things that, like I said, Jimmy Creek and Jimmy, I'm trying to think of the year he won the World Finals. I mean, I don't know that he is. He does all of his own shows now, so you don't see him out on the circuit a lot, or at least on TV. That it may have changed something, but I also think everything happens for a reason. And it's not up to me to, think about that or decide it. But yeah, I did some things. I mean, we were just talking the other day about some things I made. Oh, a monster truck to start them. You prime them. You used to have to climb up in them and squirt the fuel down them. Well, I designed that little thing that squirts fuel in the monster trucks. But I mean, somebody would have if I hadn't. So, but yeah, Craig Christensen, I knew he was a mud racer also. And again, people you get to know. There's good people and there's some people, Craig's children would actually come and stay through the summer with me. I mean, we were that close. So, and he had the Dragon Slayer. I don't know what he's doing right now, but so, yeah.
Yeah, I think Craig just retired from Monsters. I want to say this past year. He was driving on the Hot Wheels Monster Trucks tour, driving a truck called Five Alarm.
Hmm.
So he just retired this past year, I believe. And like you mentioned, Jimmy winning the World Finals in 2005 and 2019 as well.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's an interesting history. And again, with your trucks, for a lot of the historians, your story kind of fills in a lot of those gaps that we couldn't ever really figure out. So it's really a unique situation. Really, what you did in Monsters, and it's really cool, to be honest. I wanted to bring this up too because you obviously you sell the trucks, but you still keep an eye on the racing scene and everything. That never went away, even though the monster truck career ended, so to say.
Yeah, I've if it's got a motor in it, I try to do it or get involved with it. I've had some dirt cars. A buddy of mine, we had a pulling truck, did some of that. Now we're kind of getting back towards the dirt cars and actually have a couple new mud cars. They're hopefully will be coming out soon. They actually are both out. I'm just not getting to go with them. Kind of the same old story, but yeah, there was, you know, to me, motorsports. If you love them, you get out and do them. That's all you can do, and it might not be the top deal, but I started at the bottom in every sport I've been in, and I would like to think when I get out or when I'm done, either I wasn't any good at it or I did well, had fun, and you need to enjoy it because you never know what's going to make you stop. Stop racing, and I've been able to continue. So, not as a driver, I never cared much about driving. I like to be on the outside, seeing what made them go faster. When I was mud racer, had my mud cars. I let my older brother start driving for me. I started going in the monster truck way, and I could watch the mud racer and could make it faster. Knew what was going wrong with it that you don't know inside the truck or car. So everybody always gave me a hard time that my brother could drive better than I could, but it's what it is. I was going to say back, we were talking after my first shark truck, I bought the Invader monster truck. If anybody knows that history, that was a Ford truck. It was actually, I bought it from the Barefoot shop. I don't know, I can't remember their history together, but
Fred and Ray, they were good friends from what I understood.
okay. Yeah, went and bought it. Not a complete, bought a truck without a chassis, axles, all the stuff, body. That's why it had a Ford body. It was a Ford truck, the Invader was. And that's just the kind of way you did it. So, yeah, I wanted to throw that in there because I'd forgotten about that truck. But, yeah. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I'm sorry. Go
And
ahead.
that's a cool thing too, because again, it's all these different trucks and all these little bits of history that weren't known. So, as I said, it may not have been the longest career in Monsters, but certainly you made your mark. I think that's the best way to put it.
Well, yeah. Yeah. And like I said, at that time, there was a lot of trucks you might see one time that I don't know the reason why, but, speaking of being at Fred's shop, picking up the Invader truck, there was a truck that was something Ninja Turtles truck that was sitting over in the weeds. But I thought it was a pretty cool truck. And we're still trying to figure stuff out back in those days. And, it, I just thought of, I keep talking about shocks. I had made these little shocks out of, actually Monroe shocks and put coilovers around them and I was at a show, and Pablo Huffaker, I went over and I could see he was messing with shocks. And I went over and I asked him if he'd mind if I, watched him mess with them, because he sure knew what he was doing. And he let me know that I didn't know what I was doing. So I was humbled and I sat and watched him and learned a little bit about shocks. So it was, I keep going back to those days. There was so much things changing from week to week. You just, yeah, either played follow the leader or you were the leader and everybody followed. So, and that's kind of, well, it's kind of that way in all motorsports, that if you're doing well, everybody tries to copy you. So I've just never been much of a copier, and it's worked out. I mean, that's part of my enjoyment of it, is trying something different. May not work at all, but I tried it. So that's, yeah.
No, understood entirely. You want to be a leader, not a follower.
Right on, right on.
Your trucks, you're not much of a, you've got to be out there in the front, not be, mind being in the front. And you have to not mind looking silly all the time. Or not all the time, most of the time. So, yeah.
Man, guys, well, thank you so much for everything that you have done, Ken. I was the background trying to get the best videos. And before we go, wanted to talk about, if you want to talk about this there, Mark, that t-shirt idea. Was this ever in fruition? And if so, that was pretty cool of a t-shirt idea right there.
I'm sorry. Me? What?
I just have the photo here. It's the Wild Thing monster truck.
Is there a picture of a monster that was going to be the shirts, the artwork and stuff
Yes.
on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just found that and I put it on my profile picture, and I've had more people wanting a t-shirt like that. In those days, again, it was Gravedigger got to sell shirts, Bigfoot. I couldn't sell shirts. I just wasn't allowed to.
That you sell them now, I bet you people buy it.
I probably could now. And now that I put that out and I've had people just messaging, talking about it, that I hadn't thought of it before. But, and at that time you had to buy, it was like $1,100 worth of shirts. And if they didn't do well the first time, you just didn't do it again. You couldn't afford to.
Because you're in the hole.
Yeah, you're in the hole. And if you've got drivers that saw a good looking girl want to throw them a $10 shirt and you're selling them for $11, you're not making any money and you just lost it all in the shirt. The way. So, yeah.
But hey, thank you so much for being on, Ken. Thank you, Mark, for what you have done. Be on the lookout for your schedule, Mark. Is there anything first quarter wise people can catch you at for your announcing?
Got some shows coming up later on in the first quarter, so look forward to seeing all the fans this year, rocking the mic, and hey,
I guess
it's all about having fun. Simple as that.
Are you gonna create like a little schedule for people?
Yeah, I'll post something up on probably my social media. I got Facebook personal and business page, MW1 Entertainment, and I've got an Instagram as well. I believe it's MJW0267, I believe.
All right. And also be on the lookout for his company. His company is jumping on board on our Crush This page. Took a little bit of a break, but he'll be back and helping support this podcast. But once again, Ken, thank you so much for being on. Thank you, Mark, for doing the interview. Fantastic job. I was trying to do my producing stuff, but I got to work on the screen saving. But hey, that's all good. And then I'll let you guys know who is next week's guest. for the 31st. Once again, we won't be on because that's getting ready for New Year's Eve. And I think I will be on the road to Greenville, South Carolina for week 1 of the 2025 Monster Jam Arena Championship East Tour. So we'll be getting ready for that fun-filled adventure in the start of the 2025 season. So for once again, for Matt Shaw, go talk to your friends, family, give them a phone call. It's getting ready for Christmas, New Year's. If someone's by themselves having a rough time, invite them over. Have a good time, and no one needs to be left out. So, and also donate blood. That's a very, very key point. Donations, very key, especially this time around. There's family members right now in hospitals right now trying to see family members and stuff like that. And one donation can really save a life and helps everything out. So, and also, I know we joke around with pets getting spayed and neutered because of Bob Barker and The Price is Right. But on all seriousness, if you see animals, cats, dogs, outside, this cold weather is a pain in the butt. Bring them inside. They're family members too. They need the love and care also. So try to get them inside and stuff like that. So with Bradshaw, I'm Dan Chichagosh. Keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up. Peace.